See if we have any questions. Good evening, everyone. It's a little after 6 p.m. on Monday. We'll go ahead and get started. I'm a little excited today because of where we were yesterday. Pastor talking about the dream that he had and kind of dissecting and opening that up. I like that. I really enjoyed that. So since we've had a little time to think about it now, do you have anything or any other insight or something that you'd like to discuss concerning that? What Pastor shared with us yesterday.
Well, the only other thing I picked up on was the specific $110.
Yeah, we didn't talk about that part.
And
What's 110?
It's 1 plus
Yeah.
1 is 2, so it's not unity, in other words.
Okay.
So it just implies that that we can go down that same track of seeing everything as duality, or we can make the decision and embrace what we know, that we are all unicity, and that just because I see a representation of you in this illusion of this this world, this physical world, doesn't mean that the essence of who you are, not what I see physically, but the essence of who you are is bound to the same essence from which I am as well. So I just thought about that as it relates to the one, and Pastor said specifically $110, not more, not less, but $110.
Yeah, I thought that was significant as well, and we discussed most of it. We didn't get to that part, but thank you. Thank you, Barb. Anyone else?
Ron, this is from Miss Barbara. Could you explain that a little bit more on the two ones represent duality? Could you explain that a little bit more?
Well, two represents duality. It's one, and then there's the other. And what our illusion of this world is built on is that I'm me and you are you, and so I tend to look at you as apart from myself, as different from me, as a side to me. But in the truth really is that we are one. If we didn't have the facade of our physical appearance, just like Adam had the facade of Eve once they were quote unquote separated, you didn't hear Adam say before that separation that I am one. I and somebody else is my wife. It's only when he actually perceived with the eyes the illusion of the two being separate, that we began down this course of duplicity, of either or, up, down, good, bad, those kinds of things. So much of what we hear in terms of religion teaches us that we are that we can't be like the entity called Jesus. We can't be because we can't be divine. Well, we are. The essence of who we are is one with divinity. So everybody has divinity in them, and they may not be aware of it. But once they do understand that, then they are aware that they are not separate from someone else just because they look different, because that's not the real them. If you follow what I'm saying.
And good afternoon, everybody. This is Audrey. I will add to that. If you remember, it was the preacher that was asking for this $110 or whatever it is.
Correct.
And if that
Mhm.
represents duality, then in a sense, he was having us sort of quote unquote buy into that duality of things. But the other side of it was that when the book was on the floor with the hands on the top of it, I'm not sure what it means that it was on the floor. I don't know, maybe if it was on the ground, it would be talking about consciousness. But anyway, but when the light that came out of the book and started to swirl, it made me think about Merkaba, which is a term from Jewish mysticism that means kind of it's a swirling. It's two tetrahedrons that are connected together and they spin in opposite directions. But the real meaning of that is that you have light, you have spirit, and you have body all connected into one. Even though they're swirling in different directions, they are still part of the whole thing. So yes, you're right. We, even though we're made to believe that there is duality, in essence, there is not inside of us anyway. We are one. We are one with the Creator. We are Elohim. We are one with the Creator. So that swirling light made me think of that term, Merkaba. But it also represents spirit, mind, and body coming together. Anyway,
Could
I need to look up some more of that, but anyway, that's what I have for now.
could the book on the floor be a lack of respect? Maybe he didn't know the preacher did not know how to use the book. And I think of something on the floor is something people walk on or something that you disregard. So is that saying that religion did not recognize the spirituality and it didn't become important until Pastor picked it up, took it from the hands that held it?
Well, yeah,
just talking it out.
I see where you're going with that, because yeah, it wasn't important until there was someone who could recognize what it was.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say that too. Could it be that the book is not important if you don't understand and see the truth in it? And it's only when Pastor touched the hands that the swirling and the light and the enlightenment occurred. And so it's like having a Bible in your house. You never pick it up. Well, right now you might be subject to finding more truth external to it than internal to it from a religious setting. In other words, religion tells you how to interpret it, but truth says that the word is me, and so I need to look inward and uncover that which is already exposed, but within me. And if I but look inside, and I don't mean inside, but if I but desire truth, then it will be revealed.
Yes. This is good. Anyone else? Okay. I don't want to put in a bad spot, but somebody it said something to me yesterday about the voices. What do you guys remember about the voices? Because they were lost when they heard the voices, right? What significance is that? Did we talk about that portion of it?
Well, what I heard Pastor say was when it seemed like they were lost, and whoever the preacher was who was trying to drive them back to the place where they were, the original place where they were, they couldn't find it, and so the pastor said he heard the teachers' voices. He heard the teachers' voices, and he understood they were searching for him and for them. So that's all I remember of the voices.
Okay.
Also kind of significant. I don't know. He said his oldest friend in the world was with him, and someone that he trusts and relied on a lot was there too. And I thought that was kind of significant that they were there together. That's a bond of family as well. And I think Barbara said yesterday, you're physically, or maybe Kathy, they weren't physically going to get back there, but it had to be a situation where no one was in the driver's seat, not even his friend could get into the seat to drive the car. So I think that, and the combination of the teachers reaching out, it just it sort of reminded me of kind of like getting back into harmony and really harmonizing with something that kind of just helped you align and brought you back to that place you were going. It kind of helped clear up the confusion.
Yeah, I agree, ST, because he said that he heard the teacher's voice, but then a voice told him to follow the guide in front of you. Although there was no one there, but I suppose that alludes to trusting the inner voice inside of you, even when you feel like you're lost. Just trusting in that inner voice when you know who you are.
I'm having some difficulties here. I'm gonna drop my video and see if that helps. So it's kind of see if that helps a little bit. Okay. Anyone else? I thought that was very significant. The other part was and I'm not sure I said this part yesterday. I hope I didn't. I'll pretend I didn't. I thought it was beautiful to look at us as a group uh, took ownership of it a little, and it was anything foreign or scary or anything. It just all came together, and I thought that was beautiful. It shows the unity. It speaks to the trust and the oneness of the group, and I enjoyed that yesterday. So, anything else to grab our attention if you guys are see anything else in that? Okay. I spoke with S a little bit earlier about a couple of things that he saw that he wanted with us. S, are you ready? Or you want to go
Hey,
now?
Ron,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
you probably have to fix your phone again. You keep cutting in and out sometimes.
Well, I tell you what, I might have to just come in on my phone, Charles.
All right.
I apologize. Let me I'm gonna drop this and then log back in on my telephone. Sometimes we have bad weather. It happens to me. It's been so long since I did it on the phone. I don't know if I can do it anymore. See if I remember. Did anybody want to have anything you want to add while I'm doing this, please? Anything?
Did you say that ST had something to share?
Yes and no. I think it was really more of something to get help with, but Ron gonna. Hello.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, S, I'm sorry if I cut you off. Were you did you want to present something or want to share something with us?
I can share this. Before Pastor told us about the dream yesterday, I had started sending him a text about a couple of things that came up, discussions and even a dream actually that I couldn't really describe it because on the first couple of calls that we started exploring Kemet, this had happened a couple of months ago, and I was really just trying to process it, trying to figure out what it meant. And I told him, and I talked to Ron a little bit about it today. It was weird because I had been finding myself having a lot of thoughts, dreams, and interactions with my grandfather. And he was not, while he was living, he wasn't the most talkative person, to say at least. My grandmother and I had a special, bond, and my grandfather, I looked at him as more of the example. He kind of led by example in some of the things he did. And I was just telling the pastor yesterday about this dream, and he talked about his dream. And I guess I was at a point to where, like, once my mother passed away last year, I was like, there was no one else left here, physically present, but in my family, but me. And so, but we were talking about it yesterday. He said, I think if you don't mind, would you share it with the group and just, see if there are any thoughts about it. And, but I told that it was really, I felt, the whole purpose of it was that I was kind of interacting with some of my ancestors already. And it was sort of prior to us, drilling down into the Kemetic, spirituality. So I'll tell you the dream, and I can still remember, most of the details. My grandmother and grandfather, like I said, my grandmother's she's transitioned over 20 years now. My grandfather, it's been 10 years. And so in this dream, it's almost like we're somewhere in Jerusalem. The setting is what I thought. They're both in white from head to toe. My granddad's got the white hat, white suit, blue shirt, and we're kind of walking through this land. At the time, we're just having a conversation just about life in general, and we're walking through this land. It seems like it's a cemetery. And my granddad starts telling me that, this is kind of a sacred area. We're going on a trip, but it's more of a sacred trip, and we really need to be careful. And he was just telling me, just in life in general, be grateful and appreciative for different things. We were having a conversation about that. And we were walking through this land, and we keep going up to a higher elevation. We're walking up, and it gets a little rocky. So I'm like, okay, we all grab my hand. There's like this hill we're trying to go up. It's almost like a little hill that's above a ditch. And so I'm guiding him up there. And he's like, well, hey, I'm going to take my shoes off. He said, we're really getting ready to walk into sacred land. And so when they take their shoes off, it just stood out to me that I looked at both their feet. They almost looked dark and bronze. He said, so I'm helping them up. And as we get to the top of it, I told Ron this was really weird, because as soon as we got to the top, I looked this sheep right in the eyes, and there was some sort of connection. And it was a black sheep. I mean, it was like jet black, Jerry curl. I mean, this coat looked really moist. It just looked like really dark, but it was like there was a sense of peace there. So as we're climbing up, and I'm helping them up, and my granddad kept saying, hey, this is really sacred ground. And when I look back, and when Pastor said about the light yesterday, as we got to the top of it, and I looked back over the land, the entire ground just looked like it was just like so bright, so white. Like it was like the clearest day and I really felt like I was there. And the sky was so blue that it looked like it was a sea. And the colors just kind of like, my vision just kept going up, down, looking at that. And I just remember that and how dark that sheep was, but then the peace I felt from that sheep. And I've been trying to like figure that one out in particular, along with the other conversations I've probably had in dreams, visions with my granddad here in the last several months. And so I don't know what that means, but that dream just felt so real, and it felt like I was there, and that I could feel the sun, I could feel the light, and whatever that was, energy that was going on with the sheep, I could really feel it. But I had never seen a sheep or any animal that dark, that black, but it was just there, and there was just one at the top of the hill. And when we looked back, and that was kind of like where it ended. So I don't know what that means, but I just felt like in the last several months, I've never had dreams about my grandfather before, or any kind of thoughts or visions that, like the way it is now. But that's where I've been the last several months, as far as that goes, just really trying to figure that out. So I'll take any thoughts or questions. I told Ron that I did feel at the end of the day that it was in preparation for something. To this day, I don't know what, but initially I thought it was just kind of a reminder that, I'm not alone, even though, like, you kind of feel like when your siblings and everyone else have gone on, transitioned on before you, that then you go through a little period of you look around like, okay, that's it. So I don't know, but that pastor wanted me, he thought I should share it and see if there were any thoughts about it. So I'll open it up to the floor.
Thank you, S. Thanks for sharing. Any thoughts, guys? Anybody?
Well, one of the immediate things I thought about was as you walked upward, it felt like a higher level of consciousness, like a portal, a door to another level of consciousness was being revealed, and you had guides for that in your. Did you say your grandmother was there also?
She was there, but yeah, she was there, and my entire life she was the spiritual leader for me. But it was odd that he was, I was holding her hand and walking with them, but she wasn't saying anything. But I just felt her, just her presence. But I was just in the entire dream. I'm like, man, my granddad's really talking, So that was one of the things that kind of even made it, even a little. I would expect that from my grandmother, but not that coming from him. But yeah, my grandmother was there. They both were there, and like I said, I've seen my grandfather, like I said, probably 10 times now. Like even last night, I was telling Ron it was just something simple, but yeah.
So the sense I got was that a higher level of consciousness in a sense, and I don't mean higher, but like more is going to be revealed to you. And I got the sense when you were talking that the colors sort of popped in a sense. Pop meaning they were much bluer than you would ordinarily think about the sky, the land being much brighter.
The colors were very, and I could literally, I felt like I could hear the sound, and the colors were very, very vivid and bright. And I think initially when I first had it, I thought maybe, okay, it's kind of transitioning me away from whatever pain and loneliness I felt. I felt like it was transitioning me away from that to where, like, okay, I'm headed down a new path. It's the way I kind of interpreted it initially. And I told Ron there was a period of time where I just felt a little numb about things in general, just hating to see so much evil, and you see things, but you feel kind of like, I felt like they weren't bothering me, and that wasn't normal for me for a while, but there was a sense of numbness there, but you saw everything, but you felt like it just wasn't affecting you. So I don't know if it was like, okay, it transitioned me away from some sort of pain, but to have that much communication with him was just really like, it really was throwing me off.
And then the other thing that got me was that you talked about his bronze feet after he took his shoes off. And the word you used was bronze. I think you didn't say brass or anything like that. You said bronze.
Yeah, it was bronze, and because I could hear myself thinking of that when I saw it. As soon as I saw it, it kind of caught me off guard, and I looked down, and I kept hearing this voice saying, "Hey, we're getting ready to step into this is sacred." He used the word sacred. My granddad would never use that, but he used the word "this is sacred," So it meant a lot to him. But them getting up there, it just meant a lot to them too. I could really tell that there was a lot of gratitude and appreciation. So I definitely felt that.
In Revelation's first chapter and the 14th through 16th verse, it talks about feet being bronze and glowing like a furnace, and voice like rushing waters, and right hand held 7 stars, and mouth was a double-edged sword, and the face was like the sun shining in all its brilliance. And I'm thinking about what you also said was that it felt like you were like in Jerusalem, is your word. I think you said Jerusalem. Or did you?
Yeah, I use that term because I keep thinking of that. I don't know if you remember that picture that's in the back of the Bible. Well, in the older Bible, there used to be this picture.
Yeah.
I thought of that, and then once I looked back, though, everything just looked so white, like it wasn't a building in sight. It wasn't really even like any monuments, any sort of. It was just like a flat white surface, and the sky was just, everything else was blue. Like I couldn't see anything else except that white and that blue, and it was like really, like you said, it was really vivid, like. It almost to the point that my eyes couldn't like focus on one or the other at the same time.
And what about the sheep? Anybody thought about that? You said it was a black sheep and with curly hair, right?
Yeah. It was at the top once we got up there, and they just looked at me, and it's like our eyes kind of locked. It was like, oh. And it was just one. It wasn't.
ST, I thought it was interesting. You said that when you were at the top and you looked back, everything was sort of a bright white, and then the sky looked like a blue ocean. But you also mentioned your grandfather was wearing white and a blue shirt. So same colors. I don't quite know what they all mean, but I think that's significant that he was wearing the same colors that you saw after you got to the top.
Yeah, not because I guess you tried it, and they look just like I remember them looking in their prime. And I know he would never wear anything white like that. But it just really, the colors just really stuck out to me for sure. And the only thing I can kind of attribute it to was just, like we start talking about the ancestors, and just I've just really been at peace with everything recently. So I don't know. It was like I said, it was a period of time there where I thought, well, maybe that was a way for them to kind of remind me that everybody's still there, because like I said, my mom was the last person as far as parents, grandparents, and even my brother, was before that. So I don't know. I was trying to figure it out. I didn't really bring it up, but it's been a couple of months, and I just sort of mentioning that and some other things. The pastor yesterday, and he said, well, bring it up. You never know. We can, but he said, if I didn't mind sharing, he just said share it. And I'm still trying to process it a little bit, but it felt real.
It does imply that you're not alone, and that you knew you had a relationship with your grandmother when she was a closer relationship with your grandmother, but it's almost like your grandfather was reassuring you in a sense too, that even though the relationship was different in the physical, that in the spiritual, that you all are still one, that you are together, that you are supported, that you are loved, that with the clothing being the same, purity and uh, with the journey being the same, i.e., ever evolving awareness of who you really are as you climb, as your consciousness level elevates. With the bronze feet, which sort of represents, well, you know, I guess I'd have to look up bronze in the Bible, but a lot of it talks about, you know, preparation. You've had your trials. Your grandfather has had his trials, and bronze can signify that as well. But in a sense, victory as well too. I don't know quite how to say that.
Yeah, and I thought about it with our group. You know, I feel like whatever is, just like once I got to the top, I felt like, okay, I was prepared for whatever, even though I didn't know, I couldn't see anything coming at me, but I felt like, okay, I was prepared for whatever, and that I was, at least my early interpretation was that I was healed of whatever. Because I looked at the sheep, really like blew my mind because it stood out being so dark. And I remember looking up, just if you look up sheeps and things, I mean, it can go in many directions. And I think the one thing that resonated that I saw with this story was it talked about the black sheep being ubiquitously, and it holds a lot of power, and it helps with the ability to heal emotional pain, but also the bloodline within an entire family. So that was one of the first things I saw that came up about the black sheep, and then it also can lead you down a new spiritual pathway. But I thought those two things, sort of resonated a little bit. I wasn't sure what was actually being healed, but it had to be something, emotional and just something that I had to just kind of get over, because I really didn't feel like I was, and maybe that was the numbness part of really being attached to anything that was really hurting. But those are the two things that when I did a little research on it that had come up. But like I said, I wasn't sure, but I do feel like in the context of what we're doing now, I feel like we are prepared for whatever, and whatever is. And when I heard Pastor say that yesterday, he did get back home. He did get back he got to the building, and when you're hosting, it means that it kind of means that you're home. So I felt like eventually he did get back to where he needed to be. But then I compare this to where we are, I feel like we're really prepared, because sometimes I think we take on a lot of information, we take on a lot of things on our shoulders, but we're prepared. So that kind of was in my head today too, but us being prepared, and I think we're all really grateful for that preparation.
So ST, this is Audrey. So how did you feel after this dream?
On the way up, it was a little bit of fear, like walking through what I thought was a cemetery. But once we started climbing, and I started seeing how their emotions were changing to more, they felt really grateful. And so when we got to the top and I looked back, it did really feel like, okay, I could do something. And there was a sense of gratitude and appreciation for, getting to where we were at that point. And I felt like they were in a good space. And so I felt great to just have that connection with them. And so I don't know if it was just the reconnecting or just a realization of the connection that was there that I felt grateful for, or that maybe there was some journey that I came through and where I thought it maybe was a setback, but it wasn't. That, you know, so I felt pretty good once I got to the top. I felt like there was a lot of gratitude there.
The other thing was the contrast that when you talked about walking through you first said it looked like it was Jerusalem. Then you said it looked like you were walking through a cemetery, and then started upward and climbing rocks upward. So I wonder if the cemetery just simply meant that's not the end. That's what religion tells us, but that's not the end, and that you've transcended beyond this mystery of what death is, thinking it's the end here, but it's really not. And it's almost like it's showing you there is more beyond what we usually think of as the cemetery where dead folk are. Dead folk, they're not really dead when they know who they are. It's like the energy, like I don't know how you felt as you walked through the cemetery, because that could tell you something too. But you didn't linger on that. You just said we kept walking and then we started going up.
Yeah, we kept walking through it, and I just remember like guiding my grandmother just for the steps, and then once we started, when they took their shoes off and we started climbing up the hill was probably maybe 5 feet, but it was definitely elevated, and so just making sure they got up there, and I just remember looking at their feet, and he just said, "Hey, this is that's a sacred ground." And so he got up there. When we look back, all of the path that we walked through, just kind of look, it was all just kind of white. And from what I could see, I don't know if I was blinded by the brightness or just like everything came together, but I could just see nothing but white at the bottom and blue at the top. And it just but it was hard to kind of focus on either one at the same time.
The other thing that struck me, ST, is you said that the ground was, did you say the ground was rough? But he took his shoes off anyway? Can you hear me?
Yeah, it was kind of rough. It wasn't level. There was, a combination of stone. It wasn't really, I don't remember seeing any grass. It was more along the lines of just the terrain and just maybe some stone. It wasn't level though.
To me, that's kind of an indication of trusting in yourself as you're moving up to a higher level or higher elevation, just trusting yourself enough that even though you think it's rough, it's not always what it seems to be. Because when you got to the top and you look back, it looked quite different than it did on your way up.
It did.
So it's trusting yourself to keep moving to that higher elevation, and trusting what you know, to keep yourself moving, even though it feels rough. Anyway, that's what I see.
It also sounds like he did not stop to focus on the roughness. He took his shoes off because it was sacred ground, and that was his focus.
Right.
So that says a lot too to me, what we focus on. I looked up blue, and there's a lot of most of it is positive, that, from different, because I looked at from different authors, because these are things that, sites that I've never visited before. But this one says, and this one is kind of echoed by a couple of other ones, but I looked up the spirituality of the color blue, and it says blue is often associated with tranquility. Excuse me, I'll let the sirens go by. Blue is often associated with tranquility, trust, and stability. It is also sometimes associated with loyalty and wisdom. Blue is thought to be calming, soothing color that promotes feelings of peace and serenity. It is also sometimes associated with reliability and trustworthiness. Did any of that as kind of, did you feel any type of serenity or any type of peace from the colors, you think?
I definitely felt that peace and serenity once we got up and I turned around. And I think I was actually the only one looking back now that I think about it. I definitely felt that. Because like I said, it was so blue. It was not one cloud. It was almost like it was just liquid light. I don't know, but it was just, the sky was just blue until they met. The white and blue met, and you just really couldn't even focus on it. It was so clear and bright. But I did feel it. I felt at peace. I look back. And that's felt like it just felt that's why I had the feeling of preparation, because it just felt good once I looked back. And like I said, the sheep was the one, I guess it startled me for a second, but it didn't make a sound. It just didn't move. It just looked at me, and it was like at peace, and it was already up there. So I don't know what, but yeah, I did feel serenity and peace.
Okay. I looked up black too, and most of what I saw with black is negative, just like most of what I saw with white was positive, and that I don't know whether to trust that always or not, but this says black is thought to be a powerful and sophisticated color that represents power, mystery, and sophistication. So
Also wisdom. Also wisdom. So,
yeah,
we have all these negatives, but remember with unicity, there is no duality. And so black represents wisdom. And it's almost like just if you just open yourself up, other things will be revealed in a sense. You also said that you just said, asked that the light was so blue it looked like liquid light, which was similar to what Pastor said in his yesterday. And you said that the black sheet was so black. I think you mentioned it might have been a liquid, my word, but the color.
It looked moist, yeah.
Yeah, moist was what you.
I mean, I tried to equate it to like a fresh Jerry curl. I don't know, but it was really curly, and it was dark. So that 80s reference.
I have a question. As to you think that the sheep could have been you?
I don't know.
When
I connected with the sheep, I mean, I kind of felt what the sheep was feeling, and that kind of like, because at first when I saw it, you take a pause, but then I connected with it and said, okay, this sheep's okay, it's fine. I never felt in any kind of danger from the sheep, and I don't know if the sheep was there to be a passage. I don't know, but I never felt any kind of danger from the sheep, and I tried to look up what I felt from the sheep, and that was the one thing I felt like the sheep was. It held some power, and it also the black sheep was intuitive and empathetic, and it had gifts of feeling so deep that their own pain and the pain of others could be dealt with. And so I I tried. I said, well, that was sort of similar, I guess, when I looked at, things over a period of time, how you kind of like progress to move to some sort of healing. And so I felt like that's probably closer to what the sheep meant to me, but it could have been me or my feelings at the time as well. Or
Thank you.
Good stuff. Anyone else? Yes, how do you feel now with this discussion?
I'm glad I talked it through instead of just going over it in my head, because every time I have another dream about them, I go back to this one. So I'm glad we talked it through, and I think Audrey and Barbara, and I really think that was, you gave me a lot to think about too, because I just try to, when I have the other dreams, they're a lot shorter or even thoughts, but you have this dream, you just can't get it out of your head. And so for like months and months, so I was just telling Pastor, just trying to think about it on my own. And so it's good to kind of talk through it and to kind of get it out of my head. And
ST, one last question. Did you feel like something was passed to you? Whether it was knowledge or?
I think it was
I don't know.
I felt like maybe knowledge or responsibility. And I was leaning towards responsibility, but I don't know for what.
Yeah, I just asked because when I've had dreams like that about my parents too, and I felt like something was being passed to me, and I still haven't figured out what exactly, but I felt like something was being passed to me, and it was now my turn to take up this, whatever, I don't know, take up the task of whatever. But I think maybe it's a spiritual legacy of the ancestors. Maybe, perhaps. Anyway, what do you think?
It could be. I felt like something definitely was either passed on or I took up some sort of responsibility, but I don't know what it is right now. And then that goes back to, I think when I look back, whatever it is, I feel like, okay, they're like, you're prepared for it. Because I didn't think I was worried about anything. But from time to time, you do get the thought, okay, like that you've missed a lot, like that part of your life is okay, it's not there anymore physically, like the last leg of that is missing. And I've tried to not so much look at the physical, but just think about everything else when you talk about the memories and the thoughts and things that you just don't lose. And so I feel like there's a legacy to carry on, but I'm not sure. Like I said, I don't know what it is exactly.
This is James Richard. Could it possibly be with you and Audrey both that the what they were offering or infusing is there without you even knowing it, and you are seeing things more clearer than you ever have without even knowing it. That was the origin of it. Because I know sometimes when I commune with the ancestors and I start talking or teaching, there are things that come to me that I have never thought of or even considered before. But the clarity is always there. And there are sometimes you're guided to resources by ancestors, like the resource that Audrey, you were guided to yesterday about the Elakar understanding. What I've learned from the ancestors is that they don't always make it known rather, what they are leaving with us or what they are tasking us with But I noticed that it's a difference always after having been, you know, been with them and commune with them for a while. Maybe that's what the experience is. What you think?
I think so. I don't. I was earlier. I just said like I would. My grandmother was really clear about things. I didn't expect it to be my granddad taking the lead in that dream, and then since then it's always been him. And the others, recently. So I'm not sure. But it's. My grandmother's been 20 years, so my granddad's been, a little over 10. But it's like, it's just more of him lately. And so I don't know, but it's definitely him. It's not, it's not my grandmother who was, my spiritual leader early on, but it's definitely like, the interactions that I'm having now, it's always him. And so I guess that's the part I'm trying to process too, because we didn't have a lot of, he was always there and always supported me, but he didn't say a lot. So I just always watched him, what he did. And, he was more of a silent leader. So but to have that coming now, he's sharing something with me.
Audrey, what do you think?
Good evening, Go ahead, whoever was talking.
No, I was just asking Audrey, what did she think in regards to her experiences with her parents, in terms of them infusing without you really knowing, but possibly recognizing it later.
Well, I think that must be it, because I definitely felt like I was infused with something. And that's been years and years ago. So I don't know, maybe it was clarity. I've learned a lot, and I'm a different person than I was then. So
yeah, that's the
spiritual
kind of
clarity.
stuff I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I always felt that the spiritual people in your life, like when they transition, they see things much clearer than they saw them, and they see what truth really looks like. And I do believe that that's who is guiding us right now, because they are very much aware of the journey that we're on. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Just a comment. This is Sheldon. Just a comment right quick. George, we haven't forgotten about you, but I wanted to respond to something that Pastor Richard just said. That's exactly what I was thinking as well. And also as it relates to ST, when you were saying your your grandfather wasn't as vocal when he was here on this plane. You're not, or in a sense, this is the same but different person who's also just teaching you, guiding you, developing you in some sense, and bringing you comfort as well, because his understanding of who he is changed, as well as the experiences that he's had since he transitioned from this plane as well. But I have more to say, but that's all I wanted to say right now. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, I was just wondering, do you think it would have gotten your attention as much if it had been your grandmother doing the talking?
That I don't know. I think, like I said, that one dream stood out with the both of them, and but the others, the recent, it's just always been him, and just different things, and but it could be that that's one thing to. And then I thought, similar to what Audrey was saying, whether there was something that he had to pass on to me, or he's trying to share with me. I'm definitely trying to listen. Like that first one definitely got my attention, because a lot of stuff went to my mind the next day when I got up. But recently it's always something.
George, let me say this, and I want you to go ahead and say what you're going to say. As I believe that he's already passed it on to you. And by talking about it, you're opening yourself up to what's already there. And you begin to see your life differently than you have in the past, even different than what you have, the experiences you've had even to today will be different in your coming future. That's what I feel very strongly. But George, what were you about to say?
Thank you. One of the things I wanted to add, in ST telling us about his dream, one of the things I gathered from it was maybe this dream that ST had was a dream of giving him some degree of validation. What little I know about ST understands the ergonomics and the specs of humanity. And I just gathered that in his dream, a lot of it was based on validation. I'm in a text group with ST, and the way ST can bring balance in his responses is, it's the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's a balanced answer. So what I gathered from your dream, I think the dream had a lot to do with some degree of validation.
What's being validated, George? Let me ask you, what's being validated?
Well, that was just my interpretation of it.
No.
That's it.
I was
Thank
asking
y'all.
you. No. When you said that you think that his granddad was giving him some type of validation, I was trying to understand what was he validating. That's all.
Let me get back in my truck, y'all. Reb, I really have no answer to that. And I'm just going on what I know about ST. And I'm going on what other people have said about the color blue. Blue also represents a degree of life. And I still stand on, I think his dream was more so based upon it's a degree of validation. Stay on the high road. Keep on doing what you're doing.
That's what I was going to ask you. Did you feel like it was validation that your journey, you're on the journey that you need to be on and that you should be on? Is that what you mean by validation?
Was this Miss Barbara or Miss Audrey? Y'all sound alike. Which one am I?
Barbara.
Which one asked me
Barbara.
first? Okay, Miss Barbara. I really don't know what degree of validation. That could be it. That could very well be it. Yet I can't confirm or deny that. Yet I just, like I say, I just stand on. I think his dream was an answer to humanity appreciates you. Your neighbors appreciate you, your church family. That. Yet I'm just basing this on what I know about ST. So that could very well be it, Miss Barbara. It's a degree of validation that the road that you are on, this is the road that you need to be on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
Yeah, this is
I like
Sheldon again.
So, go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Not a problem at all. The other thing that is wasn't directly said in I guess in the dream, but what can automatically be implied from it is that Esther, you mentioned, I think I was in the office in the stairwell now, but I was missing some of it. I didn't catch all of it clear, but I think you was speaking about things being kind of bleak, or recently you kind of being down with everything that's been going on in the family and deaths and things like that. Well, interacting and having the opportunity and being fortunate enough to actually spend time with your loved ones, the spirit, etc. The other thing that you can automatically take from this is that you were with them. We're not with them in the physical sense, but it was very, very fine or a very real experience with you spending time with them, a very valuable quality time. So the sense of death, or the sense of there even being some type of end, should automatically, in a sense, be melting away, even to some extent, whether or not you actually thought about it, from an intellectual standpoint or not, because you had this experience of some type of life and living with them beyond this particular realm. And that we said was given off to you, I saw it as, peace and comfort as well in ensuring you of that. But it wasn't said to you, which it wouldn't have been as impactful anyway if it was just said to you. You got to actually experience it, and in a sense experience the realness of that particular thing. And that is always there for you to draw on. So in a sense, it is a gift. Whenever you feel like you may be becoming detached or entering a situation where things may be bleak, etc., that is something that you can carry on with you. And it's there to change you for the better. Just that is, being shared with you. You had the opportunity to experience something that was, beyond the physical realm in a sense. Just a touch of infinity, just a touch of who you are in a sense, but definitely a gift. Okay.
I like that, Chef.
Yeah.
I remember when I was a kid, and I remember listening to my grandfather and some older relatives talk about dreams, and I remember my mom and her sisters talking about dreams. I wonder if we are tapping into again something that the human's supposed to be doing. This is what elongates us. This is what connects us to all the worlds, is not being afraid of these things and recognizing that they're real. And being another dimension of yourself, sort of how Sheldon was saying. And I think we have these. We may not always remember them, and maybe if you're not in the right mindset, you don't have them. But I know I've had dreams about my parents, and I think some of us have talked about it, more in private or something like that. But I just think this is interesting, and I think it's very real, and it ties us together even more with all the dimensions of the spirit world. So that's what makes it interesting to me. Appreciate your sharing.
From what I've heard, I really appreciate it. I want to say something here. I believe that we are being made aware of the power that we have experienced and not really paid any attention to it. And what I'm talking about is the spirit, not spirit, I'm sorry, the ancestral experiences that we constantly have and not really talk about them because they have been something that's been taboo because of our Christian experiences.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe that it's more. I'm going to say something that's maybe a bit controversial. Suppose that there are no worlds. Suppose there is only the world, and that is the world of spirituality. What I mean by that is we have talked about worlds within worlds. Suppose they don't exist. Suppose that is something that was brought into our minds or our presence by virtue of studying Kabbalah and so many other things. Suppose that the only worlds that truly are world that exists is the world of the living and the dead, and both of those are spiritual in their existence. So there would be no divisions between worlds at all, but everything experiences unicity with itself. And our ancestors are the bridge that allows us to see that between the spiritual life as well as the spiritually dead. And they are the instructors to us about how to navigate as spiritual beings while we still occupy these bodies. Does that make sense?
It does. It requires a little thought, but yeah, I can see that.
And the reason I say that is because if the only walls that separate us are the walls that's in our minds, because there are no existing spiritual walls that separate us from anything, because everything is fluid. It simply flows. There's an ebb and flow between what we see with our eyes and what we see with our eye. And the only differentiation in that comes from our minds as opposed to reality. You understand what I'm trying to say? Somebody? Anybody?
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying. You're saying if we're spirit, then the spirit really is, all of this is an illusion, and the spirit is the only reality that's really real.
Yeah.
And that in the spiritual, in that reality, there is no difference between past, present, and future. I can experience the ancestors as if they are there, because they are, and so there is not a different world, but we've just not been taught that we should be experiencing these things before, although many of us have had these experiences, and we tamped them down because they did not seem to go along with or agree with our perception of this illusion that we've been taught is the real world, if that makes any sense.
They didn't go along with our Western training.
Right.
Good evening, everybody. This is George. I just wanted to share too, in terms of our ancestors, and it's something that I've never really thought about until I was able to have a better understanding in terms of the portal, tapping into the portal of, Kemet and the Cushite teachings. But when we talk about our poor libations, and we talked about this before, libations, what does it mean? And I think that as we have a better understanding in terms of acknowledging our ancestors and being able to appreciate in all that we do, is to give thought how the spirit, communicates with us. And as I was thinking about, ST is like, again, walking, with your grandfather, or, being able to appreciate, and I say this in my words, in terms of walk with me so I can teach you, follow me, in this life of eternity, but is nothing that, we really take the time to look at it in the way that we are pursuing it now. And I think it just has greater revelation when we can acknowledge, our ancestors and what we do. So I think that, again, it's just something that I think has significant meaning. And we're tapping into the mysteries of being able to realize that we can go back and appreciate how our ancestors are speaking to us today, but not from the Western, again, teachings, but from the heart soul of the waters, the heart soul, of what has been given to us that's evidence-based. And so, again, is just ST and all of you. It is, for me, it's no coincidence. I have been looking at pictures of my grandmother and my great-grandmother. And I'm just trying, why? But I think, again, ST is bringing us all back to not just the dreams, not just our memories, but there's a reason why we are searching, for that understanding, that significance. But as I say, why do we pour libations? You know what I mean? Was this, part of the teachings that we now are getting a better understanding of? So I just want, as T wanted to, and to everybody share those thoughts, because the wisdom of the Lakota elders, it was a book called Walking with Grandfather. And we've talked so much about being able to appreciate the feminine energy. And for some reason tonight, I feel that the masculine spiritual growth is having its way, where we can appreciate too walking with our grandfathers, walking with, that balance that we both have, masculine and feminine energy. So again, I think that to better understand that is just what I wanted to, look at as we go into the portal of the Cushite and Kemetic teachings. What does it mean when we pour libation to our ancestors, and how are we able to commune with them? I'm finished. Thank you for letting me share those thoughts.
Thank you, George. And you reminded me of something. We've been.
Excuse me 1 second. Excuse me 1 second. If you give me a moment to get back, I want to speak to libation with you. Okay, well, go ahead. All right.
No, go ahead. I was just going to say what
No,
George said.
I can't do it right now. I can't do
Okay,
it right
okay.
now. Okay.
Yeah,
No, I don't.
yeah, go ahead, Ron.
The only thing I thought about was what you were saying, George. We talk about standing in the gap. We're talking about erasing time. We're talking about what the places that we are, the place that we are. There is no such thing as time. You erase that, and you are what you do for mankind is for past and present and future, and that's So when we have these things, this has always been a part of us. But as some of you have already said, that's not how we've been taught, and we've kind of shied away and not pursued this part of ourselves. And this may be who we truly are. So
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I enjoy. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and again, I think not to look at, we talk about duality, but I think that there's something that, again, ST is revealing in terms of the love that we have for our mothers. You know, the love we have for the feminine energy, but there's something that I'm feeling is that, you know, our grandfathers, you know what I mean, or the masculine time to come together to appreciate the feminine energy that is in us, but more importantly, to break that bondage of not having the opportunity to communicate with each other as father, son. Having the
Yeah.
opportunity to be able to break that division where men don't talk, men don't cry. And I think that again, you know, it's from the birth of the goddess, but I think we are feeling it or seeing it more in a way that is our responsibility, you know, as men to share that same compassion and love that we
Mm-hmm.
receive from our mothers, but how can we do it as men that they can see too that it's all about our ancestors, where it's okay to talk to Pop. It's okay to, you know, talk to, you know, or walk with the grandfather. So I don't, it's something that again, my spirit is just feeling, but I just wanted to share to again, thank ST for the dream, because I think that we all have that opportunity, or we may have the opportunity to walk with grandfather. I'm done.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Anyone else while we wait on Pastor? Okay.
Yeah, I want to talk about libations
Yes, sir.
because I think it's important. Um, the reason I say that is because in the setting with the African in the villages, whether it be a visitor coming to the village or whether it be some type of event taking place before the chief drinks, he always poured out libations to the elders and to the ancestors. And the reason is because the ancestors are to be respected and revered above all others who sit in these positions as chief or whatever, because they are the ones who are the guides and who's gone before us and they are the ones who blaze the trail for us to walk if we follow their guidance. So with us, we are not in a position all the time to pull out libations on the earth as they do. However, I do think that there is a way to have a spiritual experience in terms of pouring yourself out as a libation. As we, for example, when I get ready to commune with the ancestors, I visualize myself being poured out to them before them as respect to them and gratefulness for what they have, how they have guided us and what they've shown us and what they've done for us without us even knowing it or being wise enough to be grateful for them having done it. So I do think that this whole conversation about ancestors and libations are extremely important, even though to some it may sound like we just talking about historical events, but they are not. They are 100% spiritual. And we as Africans have moved so far away from them until we have lost our affinity for them, and now we are regaining it. And this is what we are going to see as we move forward, embracing the reality of our ancestors and revering them. We are going to begin to hear about others doing the same thing, and because what we are actually doing is making humanity aware of the value of our ancestors. And we're going to begin to hear other people talking about being communing with ancestors. And I'm not talking about ancestor worship as the ignorance of Christianity puts it. I'm talking about revering our ancestors based upon what we said earlier. Thank you. Unless there are questions or comments, I hope all that makes sense to you guys.
Yes.
I'm done.
Ron, you still there?
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. I'm just talking, y'all. Sorry. No, I was just saying how much I really appreciate this weekend, the sessions that we've had, the stuff we've talked about, the sharing, and the place I think this puts us where what this has opened us up to seeing. So, thank you. And it may be a good place to take a pause and kind of reflect on what we have experienced weekend. So, thank everyone for sharing. Thank you guys for opening things up and asking questions and bringing clarity. And I hope you have a great week and look forward to Saturday. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
Take care.